He woke in the ash, nameless, weightless, and utterly alone. The world around him stretched into fog and dust, an endless graveyard of broken relics and weeping statues half buried in soot. There was no sky in the gray realm, only a gray dome of swirling shadow and cold silence. He didn't know who he was, but he knew he was not dead. Not completely. And then came the whisper slithering through the fog and bone, "Kill the judge to be reborn." The voice carried no warmth, no reason, only command. His hands trembled. One was bloodied. The other gripped a blade of black metal etched with unfamiliar runes. When he moved, the world seemed to recoil. Wraiths came first. They glided through the fog like sentinels of regret, their robes made of screams, their faces hollow masks of judgment. He ran. Through valleys of rusted chains, past towers made of jawbones, beneath bridges of cracked stained glass. The realm shifted with his breath, as though remembering him in pieces. That's when the masked child appeared, small, silent, watching him from atop a dune of crushed bells. The child said only one thing: "You'll never find the judge until you find yourself," then vanished into dust. As he wandered deeper, memories began to drip from the cracks of the world. A fire. A crowd screaming, none of it whole, none of it his, or was it? His blade grew heavier, sharper, hungrier. When he cut his palm out of frustration, the blade pulsed in response. And with that pain came the first real memory, a flash of a burning city, his voice shouting orders. His own reflection in a cracked mirror, face smeared with soot, eyes hard with verdict. Then came the first sin beast. It was gluttony, massive and slumped like a mountain of flesh, blind and moaning. Its body was covered in chains, each etched with the name of someone who'd begged for mercy. Its maw dripped with hunger. As it charged, the man found himself moving on instinct, dodging, striking, bleeding. Each drop of his blood made the blade hiss, grow, slice deeper. He didn't fight as a soldier, but as a man familiar with punishment. When he struck the final blow, the beast collapsed into a pile of ash and echo. From its death, a memory bled out. A courtroom lit by torchlight, his voice booming judgment upon the starving. He collapsed after, not from exhaustion, but from knowing. He had passed sentence before. But on who, and why? As he stumbled to his feet, the fog whispered again, the child's voice now. "Every monster you slay is a truth returned." The man stared at his hands, bloodied, shaking, and clenched the blade. The gray realm had no sun, no moon, only the path ahead. And someone waiting at the end of it. The path bled beneath his feet. Ash turned to mud, stained crimson with memories he didn't yet understand. The gray realm shifted again, subtly but surely. Walls rose from the dust like bones surfacing after a storm, reshaping the terrain around him. Ahead lay a ruined cathedral, its spires cracked and bent toward the gray sky, its stained glass windows bleeding color that pooled on the ground like oil. The whispers that once echoed from the fog now emanated from the walls themselves, sermons twisted into madness. Every word cut like glass. The man entered the cathedral, blade humming softly at his hip. The air was thick with incense and rot. His footsteps echoed down a blood-slicked aisle, lined with pews carved from ribcages and marrow. Above the altar, a crucified figure turned its head to face him, its mouth sewn shut, its eyes hollow. And in that moment, a memory surged forward, himself, clad in black robes, reading from a holy book while crowds screamed beneath him. He had been their judge, their hand of justice. And he had never once listened. He staggered backward, nearly collapsing, but the whisper returned. Every step forward costs a truth. Outside the cathedral, the masked child waited again, seated on a throne of broken hourglasses. "You've seen the face of mercy," the child said. "Now find the face of rage." Then they vanished once more, leaving only the sound of distant fire. The world shifted again. Now he walked a field of cinders, ash falling like snow. At its center, a pyre, burning without end. From within rose the second sin beast, Wrath. Towering, horned, cloaked in black flame. It wore chains like robes and wielded a sword the size of a tree. Its voice was wind and judgment, calling him by a name he did not yet recall. Their battle scorched the realm. Wrath fought with fury, but he fought with pain. Each wound he took pulled more memory from the haze. A child crying for help. A brother's hand pulled away too soon. His sword grew sharper, faster. Wrath roared and fell, exploding in a vortex of heat and memory. As silence returned, he dropped to his knees. He remembered the trial. A man poor, starving, had stolen bread. He, as judge, had passed sentence without hesitation. That man had burned on the very pyre now before him, and he had watched. The masked child reappeared in the smoke. Do you see now? These are your lands. This is your soul. He looked around. The ash, the fire, the echoes, none of this had been built for him. It had been built by him. The child offered him a torn page of the diary, words written in his own hand. If I forget myself, will I be forgiven? He tucked it into his cloak, rising slowly. Ahead, the fog stirred again. Another memory waited. Another monster. And one truth deeper, not everything he remembered would be a lie. Some would be worse. He descended into silence. The road from Wrath's ashes led to a chasm lined with statues of weeping saints and faceless martyrs. The deeper he traveled, the more oppressive the air became, thick with whispers, with forgotten prayers and unspoken regrets. At the end of the descent stood the Sanctum of Echoes, a cathedral not built but grown from bone, sorrow, and the screams of the damned. Its spires reached down, inverted like spears meant to pierce the very soul. The masked child waited at the threshold. This place, they said, remembers all the things you wish it wouldn't. Inside, the voices began. Every wall breathed confession, voices of sinners and saints, accusers and victims. His own voice among them, ruthless, cold, absolute. The man stumbled as the past assaulted him. Flames danced in the corners of his eyes. He saw faces, names, places, each one severed by his hand or his word. Then another door, another page, a trial. Not one he presided over, but one where he stood accused. Yet no sentence had ever been passed. In the nave, beneath a shattered stained glass dome, stood the third sin beast, Envy. She wore his face, and hers, and theirs, shifting constantly, a mosaic of everyone he had envied, hated, judged. Her voice was many, but the words were one. You wanted to be better than them. That's why you made this place. To prove you were more. They fought not with weapons, but with visions. Each strike was a memory of warmth denied, of praise withheld, of bitterness festering beneath the mask of law. He faltered. But the blade, now blackened with regret, flared to life. He struck Envy down with one final cry, not of victory, but grief. As her form dissolved into pale green mist, he collapsed again, and saw her. A woman, laughing, touching his cheek. Then screaming as the crowd dragged her away. And his hand, the judge's hand, giving the signal. The child knelt beside him, removed their mask. It was him, younger, unscarred, still capable of kindness. I was you, the child said. Before you chose power over love, law over mercy, you didn't want judgment. You wanted control. Tears slid down his cheeks. Why help me now? The child smiled. Because even if you bury the truth, it always sings. A door opened at the altar's far side. Beyond it, a throne of mirrors. A crown of iron. A corridor made of shadows. The judge remembered. He had built the gray realm not to punish sinners, but to escape his own sin. Every sin beast was him. Every memory was a lock undone, and ahead waited the final judgment. Not of others. Of himself. The blade pulsed again, but this time it whispered not in anger, but in longing. It was time. The judge stood and walked into the court of one. The corridor stretched forever, no walls, only reflection. He walked across a floor of obsidian glass, each step echoing with the weight of 1,000 judgments. The images beneath his feet shimmered and changed, his past selves rendered in sharp, agonizing clarity. The tyrant cloaked in justice, the priest who never listened, the man who condemned out of fear. He was all of them, none of them. And ahead stood the Tower of Verdict, a monolith stitched together from the bones of choices long buried. The blade no longer whispered, it waited. At the base of the tower sat the final sin beast, pride. But pride did not roar, it did not raise a weapon, it asked questions. Why did you make this world? To cleanse it. Of others? Of myself. Then why are you still alive? Silence fell. The man stepped forward, the beast dissolved into silver dust. The tower's gates opened. Within was no courtroom, no throne. Only a great chamber of mirrors, circular, endless, and utterly quiet. In the center sat the judge, radiant, perfect, unmoving. He was beautiful, unscarred, unflinching. The man stared into his own reflection, a form not aged by suffering, but perfected by control. The judge opened his eyes. You've come to kill me. I came to remember. And now? I don't know. The judge stood. His steps made no sound. I am you, without the burden of guilt, without doubt. I made the gray realm eternal. I gave you a chance to forget. Why come back? The man gripped the blade. I needed to know if redemption was real. The judge laughed. Redemption is for the weak. Judgment is power. Sit upon this throne and forget again. Rule in silence. The chamber grew cold. He raised the blade. It didn't move. It melted. The man collapsed to his knees. He was no longer the executioner, no longer the judge. He was just a man haunted, trembling, undone. The child appeared again, silent now, older somehow. He handed the man the final page of the diary. It read, "To kill the judge is to accept the sin. To accept the sin is to forgive it." The judge stepped forward, offering his hand. The man did not take it. He embraced him. And in that moment, the light in the chamber shattered. There was no scream, no triumph. Only quiet. The tower began to fall. He walked out alone. No blade, no mask, no title. Only memory. Only truth. And ahead, the throne, simple now, humble, waiting. But for the first time, he didn't want it. He had one choice left. To become what he once was, or leave it all behind. And in the silence, he whispered, I remember. Grey Realm, Episode 5, Ashes and Throne. The tower was gone. Its bones scattered across the realm like memories turned to dust. The man stood where judgment had once ruled, a silent crater beneath a sky that no longer churned with guilt. Above, the heavens cracked open, not with light, but with possibility. The Grey Realm had changed. It was no longer a prison, nor a reflection. It was a choice. He walked through its remains, barefoot, no longer pursued by wraiths, no longer guided by whispers. The blade was gone. The child vanished. But their echoes lived on in the wind, in the warmth that now lingered on his skin, in the weightlessness of a soul no longer hiding. He reached the throne. Once grand, forged of marble and iron and menace, it now stood humbled, carved of gray stone. Smooth and quiet, at its base sat a single page, his handwriting, the last words of the diary he once forgot. To judge is to separate, to forgive is to return. He read the line, folded the page, and burned it. Behind him, the Grey Realm stirred. Something new had awakened. A soul fresh, confused, wandering. A woman in black emerged from the fog, eyes wide with terror. She stumbled, fell, and then heard the voice. Kill the judge to be reborn. She turned and saw him. But no longer hungry. Above it, etched in fire. The judge remembers.